The NBA camp just got a big win after it was announced that NBA YoungBoy will get out on house arrest after being locked up the last few months. Let's get straight into what happened. Back in September 2020, YoungBoy was arrested in his hometown of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, after police raided an abandoned trap house where he was filming a music video with some members of NBA and BBG. Neighbors called the police after seeing some dudes hanging out and carrying guns. When the cops arrived, most of the men ran and the rest got arrested on drug and gun charges. YoungBoy was on the scene and got caught up in the case. Police ain't find YoungBoy in possession of any of the weapons, but they did find his DNA on a .45 cal and 9mm pistol. They also checked the footage that was taken by the cameraman and saw YoungBoy holding guns, plus they was illegal and not registered. Because YoungBoy's a convicted felon, he can't be around guns or associate with other convicted felons. So he was hit with several charges, including felon in possession of a firearm and possession of a firearm not properly licensed. Originally, he was released on bond and allowed to go about his business. But in February 2021, the FBI said they were opening an investigation into the entire Never Broke Again organization called Operation Never Free Again and put out a warrant for the rapper's arrest. On March 22, 2021, LAPD tried to pull YoungBoy over for the outstanding warrant. YoungBoy must have known what was coming, and instead of pulling over, he smashed off and led police on a high-speed chase. When he realized that wasn't gonna work, he got out of the car and fled on foot. He had lost cops for a little while, but the LAPD called in the help of the FBI, who brought out the K9s and were able to track him. Police also found a gun in the car he was driving, so he was detained and brought into custody in Los Angeles. A judge in California approved a $1.5 million bail that required YoungBoy to put up $500,000 in cash as well as 2 properties. But since the original crime happened in Baton Rouge, YoungBoy had to return to his home state to have his bail approved by a judge in Louisiana. On April 1st, the Louisiana judge decided to revoke his bond because of his history of probation violations and violent behavior. So he's been sitting down ever since, while his lawyers try to get the court to reconsider. Even though YoungBoy's been locked up, he still had a better year than most rappers who are free. He dropped his 3rd studio album on September 24th, which debuted at number 1 on the Billboard charts and sold 137,000 units. This made him the 3rd rapper in history to have a number 1 album while behind bars after Tupac and Lil Wayne. Despite his legal situation, NBA YoungBoy has kept a solid fan base who's willing to support him no matter what. Now, it seemed like he got some good luck, and a judge in Louisiana reversed the decision to revoke bail after his lawyers gave a solid plan for his release. After seeing that, a federal judge also agreed to let him post bail, but there's some strict conditions he has to follow to not get sent back. First, he's not completely free. He has to remain on house arrest until his trial, which he'll serve from his home in Layton, Utah. It sounds like the judge figured there ain't much trouble he can get into if he's away in the state, far from other rappers or Opps. Second, he can't leave the house unless his travel plans are approved by his parole officer, and he's only allowed to go to Baton Rouge to see family in parts of California and Utah for business. Next, he can't have more than 3 visitors at his home at a time. They can only visit between the hours of 7 a.m. and 9 p.m., and they gotta be approved by a judge, meaning they can't be felons or gang members. Plus, there's also the conditions that are normal for those on parole, like not breaking any other laws or being in possession of drugs or a firearm. He'll have a home studio where he can make music, but he probably won't be approved to do any shows unless it's very small and in one of the approved locations. YoungBoy also agreed to pay an armed security staff to protect the property and make sure he follows all the rules of his bail. His lawyers offered to employ a private security company called Bedrock and pay them as much as $21,000 per week to patrol the property. On top of that, a woman named Kyrie Oliver testified for YoungBoy, saying she met the rapper when he was a kid in the Baton Rouge school system and began mentoring him. She told the court that if YoungBoy got out on bond, she would personally help keep an eye on him. Julie Greenwald, a music industry exec who works for Atlantic Records, YoungBoy's label, testified that the company had already invested more than $2 million in YoungBoy's career. So they willing to build him a home studio and provide whatever else he needs to continue to work while on house arrest. Prosecutors try to poke holes in the defense's case, saying that everyone who testified on YoungBoy's behalf was on his payroll, which means they couldn't be trusted to make sure he followed the conditions of his bail. They pointed out the fact that Bedrock was making 5 figures a week just to protect him in the wilderness of Utah, and Atlantic Records benefited by letting him do his thing. They even revealed that Kyrie Oliver, his mentor, once got paid $600,000 to serve as his celebrity assistant for a month, so there's no way she could be trusted to keep him on the right path. But the judges ain't agree, because they allow YoungBoy to post a bond. They gave him the option of either putting up $500,000 cash or posting a $1.5 million property bond. This meant that instead of putting up cash, they could put a lien on his properties and repossess them if he ain't show up to court. YoungBoy posted $500K in cash and got released on Tuesday, October 26. As long as he shows up to court and don't try to go on the run, he'll eventually get that $500,000 back. This is a major win for the NBA camp, but it don't mean YoungBoy's in the clear yet. He's still facing serious charges and could still go to prison if he's found guilty. He'll have to be on his P's and Q's and not violate any of the conditions of his parole if he wants to stay a free man. Right now, he's waiting to be transferred to his crib in Utah while his team gets everything in place to meet the conditions of his house arrest. So stay posted for updates.